I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Syrian Arab Republic.
Shukran, Sayyid Rais.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, my delegation has taken note of the Secretary-General's report on the work of the organisation. During this session of the General Assembly, the document illustrates in exhaustive manner what the organisation has been doing, addressing the issues that concern member states and the peoples of the world, above all, given the outbreak of COVID-19 and its disastrous effects on everything. Like every disaster that humanity has faced, we must learn the lessons from it. If these lessons are learnt positively, it can represent a means of facing the risks and challenges that we will see in the future in terms of crises and danger to international health. With that in mind, my delegation would like to make the following observations on the report. We also stress our thanks to the Secretary General when he said that safety is the most important thing. President, my delegation would like to make the following observations on the report. Firstly, the Secretary-General's report has outlined the efforts made by the organisation to take coordinated and effective humanitarian measures to save lives and to ease the suffering of people suffering from natural disasters and situations of conflict or emergency. The report, however, didn't mention the significant negative role of coercive unilateral action imposed illegally on the peoples of the member states of this august assembly. Nor does it mention the devastating effect that these have on economies, including on basic services such as healthcare, education, and energy. The Syrian Arab Republic welcomes the efforts made by the United Nations on the humanitarian sector. We also must recognize the need to lift the unfair economic blockade imposed on the Syrian people by the United States and the European Union, which impedes the action plans of the Syrian people to overcome the effects of the terrorist war on its people. It also impedes the rapid response and the guarantee of the voluntary return in safety of displaced people and refugees who have had to flee abroad. The United Nations has also made efforts to maintain international peace and security and to help to mitigate and prevent armed conflict and to use the peaceful settlement of disputes. The United Nations also has operations to uphold peace around the world and to maintain it, but nonetheless, the report doesn't mention the violation of the United Nations Charter and the attacks on national sovereignty and the interventions in the domestic affairs of states. Or systematic policies to sow chaos and instability. These examples can all be found in my country. There's also the Israeli occupation of the Syrian Golan, and these violations continue. The most recent was the plan announced by the Israeli Prime Minister to redouble the number of settlements in the occupied Syrian Golan, creating new settlements in violation of the relevant Security Council resolution of 1981. This continuing Israeli aggression against Syria is not mentioned, nor is the illegal presence of the occupation forces from the United States and Turkey in parts of our national territory. In the southwest of Syria, among other places, they are causing terror and using intimidation, undermining our national wealth and undermining the Syrian government's efforts and those of its allies to eliminate terrorism and to re-establish security and stability throughout the country. Thirdly, the report refers to the United Nations support to member states when fighting organized crime and terrorism. It also mentions a number of fora or areas of terrorism around the world, in particular in Africa. But it doesn't reference the organizations that are working in the Arab world and in neighboring countries within the region, such as Daesh, Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, and other organizations that have been designated as terrorist and are outlined by the Security Council. My country stresses the need to strengthen international cooperation to eliminate terrorism at international level. The role played by the United Nations Global Counterterrorism Strategy and the importance of undermining or uprooting the effects of terrorism, such as foreign terrorist fighters. We must also apply pressure to countries to repatriate their terrorist nationals, such as the Al-Hol camp, and there is a need to address the issue of these terrorists and their families so that they do not form a new nexus of future terrorism. Mr. President, in conclusion, my delegation reiterates the determination of our government to take a counter-terrorism approach in line with its commitments at international level through international conventions, and also its will to cooperate with the United Nations and its specialized agencies in the interest of the Syrian people, and to make manifest the common objectives of the member states under the United Nations Charter. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
I thank the distinguished representative of Syrian Arab Republic.